Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to another traditional draft of Modern Horizons 3. Without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one, which is a super weak pack. We just take the strongest monocolored card, which is Area Auxiliary here. This is a practice draft here for the Arena Open draft. So I am recording this probably many days before it goes live on YouTube, and that's why we're doing traditional draft today. Pick 2 is a bit difficult. I mean, Writhing Chrysalis is the best card in the entire set. Well, it's in the top 3. It's the best common for sure. But Area Auxiliary, just starting with 2 of those, would give us a very clear direction to go. And red and green are 2 of the best colors in the set, which both feature the best commons. So they're going to be very competitive in the draft pods today, I assume, as there will be a lot of highly competitive drafters since the Arena Open drafts are occurring right now. So you're going to have to fight over that color pair. I feel like Chrysalis is so busted, you still just take it here. But not so sure how open green-red's going to be. Now we have Fanged Flames for cheap removal or Repurposer for the wide board state. Repurposer actually working really well with the Writhing Chrysalis as well, so I might go for that over the Flames here, but both of these are very premium commons. And it looks like the Chrysalis pick so far has worked pretty well for us, because the second Area Auxiliary would just lead towards, I guess, like green-white aggro here with the Watchdog. I feel like that'd be a little better than black-white. I just like green-white better as an aggressive deck, which is certainly where the Auxiliaries would want to be. But with the Chrysalis here, this is a pretty easy Repurposer. I mean, not that easy, because Fanged Flames is close. Pick 4, we've got Ghost Fire Slice now. Basically a more expensive Fanged Flames, but you can shoot your opponent's face with it, and every now and then it's cheaper. They've got a multicolored permanence. Pyro Surfer's fine for pretty aggressive decks, and I suppose if you have a lot of Eldrazi spawn, you will be buffing all of those up, so that is interesting here. I think we take the efficient removal first, though. Pick 5. Glimpse the Impossible works very well in an Eldrazi deck, ramping into the gigantic ones and giving us multiple spawn for the Chrysalis. Fleshraker works fine in this kind of deck as well, because all of our Eldrazi spells are colorless spells. They're devoid. The Repurposers, the Chrysalis, stuff like that. So this can spit out a lot of spawn as well. It's a bit hard to cast. I think I like Glimpse a little better. Pick 6, there's a Warped Tusker. Just a fine filler top-end Eldrazi, which we certainly want 1 or 2 of, to use all these spawn tokens on. And this one, of course, being flexible with the cycling ability is good. Yeah, looks good to me. Pick 7 is where the green and red has dried up here. Suppose we take the best white card, since there's tons of options there, so white looks like a pretty open color, maybe towards Boros as a backup plan, although we basically have 2 green cards, the Tusker and the Repurposer, 2 red cards, so we're kind of equally in both of those colors, but definitely white as the backup color here. I like Evangel with cards like the Area Auxiliary, put counters on stuff. Zealot is a good card for any energy decks, so it would be a little better in red-white than Evangel probably, but Evangel is going to fit perfectly well into either Boros or green-white. So it's the more flexible card there. Although pick 8 Conduit Goblin leads to Boros as the backup plan. Dread Mask and Void Pouncer are both fine, but they're not cards we're really going to be missing out on if we do end up in Gruul. But we would really, really hate not having Conduit Goblin if we are pushed into Boros here. Pick 9. Some decent blue Eldrazi cards, but nothing much for green and red. Eldrazi, there is Unstable Amulet for Boros Energy. Pretty consistent draw spell with enough cards like Conduit Goblin that come with some energy. Pick 10, It That Heralds the End. Looks perfectly fine alongside a bunch of spawn. Now a blue Eldrazi. We get pushed that way, and there's Pyro Surfer pick 12 towards a really aggressive build. And it's definitely Boros or Gruul at this point. And Boros it may be. Guide of Souls is one of the strongest cards in the entire set, very similar to Chrysalis, except this one is just a really fast, like, aggro bomb, where you can quickly start turning many of your attacking creatures into flyers permanently, with additional +1/+1 counters as well. This card is really, really busted. The best card in this pack by quite a bit. Second best is probably also just a good energy card, the Galvanic Discharge, for really efficient removal. Yeah, I think Guide of Souls try to commit to Boros looks very reasonable on this one. Because that'll be the strongest card we've drafted so far. Even a little stronger than Chrysalis. We've got a solid curve towards it. We already have 3 2-drops. Now, for pack 2, pick 2, another Conduit Goblin looks very, very solid here. I don't think that Eldrazi Linebreaker would be unreasonable to play in a Boros deck, but it would definitely make our mana base worse, because we'll need to run a lot of colorless sources, so we'll have to run a lot of landscapes. We can find them. There could still be an argument towards that Linebreaker, because it's also going to work just really well if we got stuck back in Eldrazi, but I feel like Guide of Souls is the kind of pick we want to commit pretty hard on here. I mean, we did get a Conduit Goblin pick 8 last pack, so it's not impossible that we take Linebreaker and wield a Conduit Goblin, because that'd be pick 9 here. There's a risk to it, but Linebreaker could fit in either deck, although again, definitely way better. We ended up in Gruul. Here's a Charge Bug. Mandibular Kite's also quite reasonable here, getting just more 1-drops to play to stay really aggressive. But I think the energy production from Charge Bug is pretty huge for Boros, especially with cards like Unstable Amulet and Guide of Souls to really use that energy. One of the best play patterns for Guide of Souls is to run it out turn 1, and then play any 2-drop that comes with 2 energy, be it a Conduit Goblin or a Charge Bug, so then you immediately have 3 energy on your attack on turn 2 to turn the Guide itself into a beefy flyer. So I think we're going to take the 2-drop creatures that come with energy very highly here. Or maybe if it weren't for Guide of Souls, it'd be better to take the 1-drop creature. Okay, that doesn't really do much. Not that interested in Ashling. Inventor's Axe is another way to get some random energy. It's a fine combat trick. Eldrazi Ravager is a pretty flexible card towards Gruul. I don't think we're going to run Glimpse the Impossible if we're in Boros. Tried that in our last Boros build. It was not particularly good, but it is great in Gruul. Yeah, I mean, passing up Inventor's Axe, we're not missing that much by speculating on the Eldrazi Ravager back towards Gruul there. Pick 5, another Reckless Pyrosurfer looks best. There's nothing really for Gruul, but Pyrosurfer can work in either deck. Definitely better in Boros because we're trying to be really aggressive, but in Gruul, it can buff all the spawn tokens for extra damage, which is reasonable. Not great, but reasonable. Pick 6, Gatekeeper is another one of these cards that could go into either deck, although I think Mandibular Kite for lowering the curve would be really good for Boros. Kite is definitely the better card for Boros, but because Gatekeeper's red, we could use it in Boros or Gruul, and it would be very good in Gruul with spawn production. Again, I think I'm still just like mostly committed to Boros here, unless it's a pack where I'm decently sure I could just wheel the card I want for Boros anyway, and I don't think I can wheel anything at this point, so I am going to take the better Boros options first. This pack is empty. This pack is also empty. Yeah, Labyrinth looks really bad. Even if we play Eldrazi, that's super inconsistent. It's just going to be a waste. I can still draft it for the collection, just rare draft it here. Although if this were the Arena Open, I'd probably take the Destroy a Flyer thing for the sideboard if we got pushed back to green-red. We did not get a pick 9 Conduit Goblin, so that didn't pan out for us. We do get a Siege Smash. Flexible little combat trick. Evo Witness would be fine. We ended up Gruul. But Siege Smash is okay for either deck. Wing gets a fine trick for Boros, and there's nothing for Gruul, so we'll take that. Do not like Muster. Do like the Inventor's Axe for this deck, so happy to wheel that. Mogmob is just immensely hard to cast. So this pack has literally nothing for Boros. So we take an efficient removal spell for green or a very efficient ramper. Get 4 green off of this thing when you have a power 4 or greater creature on board, and it can do that all by itself if you eternalize it, if you recast it from your grave. Pretty huge. Yeah, Fanatic is pretty excellent for Gruul. Also a card that can lead to a turn 3 Chrysalis, which is always dumb. Now we have Mandibular Kites for Dog Umbra for Boros. And Gruul is just like an Oozewag here. I like the Kite best. 14, and we can run Linebreaker. Well, not easily, but we can figure it out. We can run the Ugin's Labyrinth as a waste, I guess. Can run the Muster, I guess, as a 3-drop. Hexgold Slith is incredible with our Guide of Souls. And yep, only other option is Gatekeeper would be fine in Gruul. I guess Dread Mask would be fine in Gruul, but I think I am fully Boros. Pick 4, there is really nothing for either deck. I mean, Glimpse. We were Gruul at the core, but I think we just take like this Landscape. This is going to help us cast the Linebreaker, and it can splash in some green cards. Worst case scenario, we can like splash in a Chrysalis to help meet our 23 non-land playables we need to get to if we get a couple random green landscapes. Smelted Chargebug is another card to cheese people out with the Guide of Souls that's also just good in general in this archetype. Amped Raptor is incredible in this archetype. Cheeses people out with the Guide of Souls, but it is also sometimes just a really, really absurd amount of stats for 2 mana. Sometimes you drop it, you get a 2 mana 2/1 first strike and a 2/2 Conduit Goblin that immediately gives the Raptor haste. Sometimes you do this and get a 2/2 haste battle cry with the Pyrosurfer. Even if we play it and just get a 1/1 flyer alongside it, that's such a huge amount of stats for only 2 mana. Can lead to really, really hard to stop curves. This Landscape's only on color for white. Take another Hexgold Slith here, or Solstice Zealot. Both look very reasonable. I guess with our curve looking the way it is, we take the 3-drop this time. Take 8. Simulacrum's okay. Void Pouncer's okay. Simulacrum. Don't have a lot of colorless sources. This would be 23 non-lands, 1 land, so this is like a full deck here. Probably run Infernal Captor over something here. It's the creature to non-creature out. We're at 15 creatures, but 2 Mandibulars, so we're at 17. Here's the 18th creature. So cut like 1 creature, 1 spell. Probably cut the Glimpses in this deck. Although the Glimpses help cast Linebreaker, maybe we just cut the Linebreaker. Realistically speaking, we're not good at getting colorless mana. I feel like that's probably where it is. Alright, so what did we learn here we can apply to the Arena Open Draft today? Commit? That's probably what we learned. I mean, staying open in the first pack is generally always good, because then we're open to that pack 2 Guide of Souls that pushes us on Boros, but think we stayed overly open from that point on, still speculating towards green. Whereas if we had just locked in every pick from that point on to being only Boros cards, we would have had, you know, a second Conduit Goblin, a couple other cards like that, over having to splash in this Chrysalis and make the deck less consistent. You know, over having to play maybe like a Glimpse the Impossible or a Muster the Departed that's kind of mediocre in this sort of build. So really, staying open in the first pack certainly worked out. Staying open all the way towards pack 2, probably pick 3 or somewhere like there was probably right. But like from that point onward, I think we just had to make a choice and commit to end up with the best deck possible out of this draft pod. And we should have just committed to Boros with perfect hindsight. And we didn't quite do that in time. So our deck ends up being a little bit weaker than it could have been. Not an absolute train wreck, but enough to lower us down from being maybe a 3-round winning deck, winning 3 rounds and losing 1, to being a deck that wins 2 rounds and loses 2. So it's enough of a mistake that it could cost us making it to Arena Open Day 2, draft number 2, if we repeat a similar draft later today. So probably cut a land here as the final card. Yeah, definitely glad I did a little practice draft here, get more familiar with the cards. I think I'm going to do one more practice draft before I hop in to the Arena Open draft so that we can see cards and multiple strategies real quick. And probably cut like a forest. I mean, I could cut the Chrysalis and just not splash it also, actually. With only one landscape to help get there. I could like cut Chrysalis, cut landscape, cut one land, and run like a Glimpse or something. 16 land deck, and that's probably fine as well. Strong as Chrysalis is, don't know we splash it off of a single landscape. In a 2-color streamlined aggro deck like this, probably not. Although, wait, we still have that line breaker we'd need to get out of here without the landscape, and even with the landscape, it's really inconsistent. So I'd have to run both Glimpses, which just are kind of awkward in Boros, because we don't really care about the Eldrazi spawn tokens. Basically do nothing till really late in the game. Yeah, I mean, the options are to run double Glimpse in a 16-land deck, or run a Chrysalis and play 17 lands. 2 forests and a landscape here. Yes, I'd rather do the Chrysalis thing. But that's where we're really punished for our speculative choices here. Is that the deck ends up looking like this. Little Chrysalis splash. Again, it's still a decent deck. Like, I don't think it's gonna 0-4 or anything if it was our Arena Open deck, but I'm not confident in it being able to day 2, which is definitely an issue. So 15 red cards, 9 white, 1 green. There are no double white cards in the deck. Let's cut a white for a red source, and then we will call it a deck there. And I will edit it together. We'll hop into the gameplay right after this. But for me personally, I'm going to go do another practice draft, and then I'm going to draft and play the Arena Open Day 2. So this is past Gauntlet checking out. Current, present-day Gauntlet, post-Arena Open. We'll be seeing you all to see how this deck does in the gameplay. Alright, here we are for game 1 of round 1, immediately getting punished for the Chrysalis splash here. To the point where I think we have to mulligan with triple red spell in the hand. We can go Kite into Zealot for turn 1 and turn 3. How many red sources are we actually running here? 8 mountains. Our landscape doesn't hit red. On the draw, 8 successes out of, 33 cards? Got a few turns and any land gets to Zealot. You know, probably not the worst keep in the universe, but I am still hedging towards mulligan. Alright, and this hand is worse. There's literally no castable spells without perfect draws. And I guess that's how it's gonna be. This is completely unkeepable. It's a mold of 4, and we should have kept the first opener. Now things look basically completely unwinnable. We definitely ditch a land, but we lock in on turn 2 Amped Raptor and probably keep the Charge Bug to guarantee we're playing at least 2 spells. Yeah, that's brutal, but that's Magic. You are going to lose some games to just the Wombo Combo Triple Mole. Playing against Blue-Black, they start off with Marionette Apprentice, which is super bad for us. It's already a very clumpy board. But we hit our best Amped Raptor follow-up, the Conduit Goblin, to haste it out and just jam. I'll absolutely do that. The Auxiliary at 4 mana is another huge aggressive play, giving some power in the sky, as well as buffing multiple creatures permanently. So things are looking about as explosive as a 4-card hand could look, but getting punished by a discard spell on a multi-4 is... it's disgusting. I was gonna say insurmountable, but probably not quite. Probably still possible to win on a multi-4 plus a discard, but this is probably not the game to do so. Alright. I mean, they're so stable here, they're going to have all the mana in the universe up for counters all game, so if they have the counter, they have the counter, and we can move on to game 2. Alright. No counter spell. We might still be in here. Unless this is double removal. I guess even one removal spell would be pretty bad, right? Just kill our only flyer. Fill the propane on the auxiliary. Yeah, that is quite bad. Jam in for 3. We go to 15. A very cool card, but also very late. By Gatekeeper first, I get damage off of each creature I play, but if I Guide of Souls first, then I will have the energy to haste out the Gatekeeper, which feels better. I guess I should say I might have the energy to haste out the Gatekeeper. They can use removal on Guide before Gatekeeper resolves. And I think you definitely would, because if we top deck anything like a Conduit Goblin, that would be the Guide of Souls just popping off. I think it's the best card to kill. I guess that only matters in the long run, though. When they're at 11 life, they do probably have to prioritize a 3-power swinger here, like the first striker. Unfathomable Truths. Yep, that's excellent value. We're now like 5 or 6 cards behind. I mean, it's irrelevant at this point. We already lost card advantage just by mulliganing at the start of the game. That was never going to be how we get ahead here. It's just having more to pressure the board than our opponent early, and so far so good on that front. Alright, well, That is tremendously bad for us. They have more than enough cards to throw at that thing to make it a big enough blocker to just eat our stuff without even losing the frog. They can also jump it in the sky whenever they need, so that is just a complete brick wall that we can't break through. It's also an incredible rare, just in general, for the blue-black decks. So, makes the matchup look rough here, because their deck is certainly very strong. We have 1 energy, we have no attacks. This thing's like 5 power or more. Still got Gatekeeper sitting here pinging them, but can probably just autopilot for the next 5-10 minutes till we lose. That's the most likely outcome with how many cards our opponent has to play around with here, and how stable they are on board thanks to the frog. I guess if I do send in, then we do force them to not have as many cards. But, like, this doesn't even really seem that good. They only have to discard 2 cards. They could just, like, discard land, kill our best creature. Take, like, 2. I don't think we do that. Let's just autopilot and get as much information out of their deck as we can. This is already so much more mileage than you would almost ever expect off of a Multifor. Again, basically a guaranteed loss from turn 0 this game. Get rid of Guide of Souls' ability, but it is still a 1/1 to help us go wide. We're on a relatively quick clock off of the familiar, though, and then they could just, like, send the frog into the sky to finish us off alongside it. Don't think they can afford to send the frog into the sky and send it in this turn just yet. I think they need it as a blocker still. Yeah. They don't attack with anybody. There's a Pyro Surfer off the top. Alright, that puts them to 6, and that means each of our attackers hits for at least 2 damage on a future turn. For now, if I sent the whole board in, I would be putting them to 4. And they'd have pretty good blocks. Yeah, no, the blocks are too good, I think. So they have to chump Amped Raptor, but then... Well, no, they could discard 1 card to Psychic Frog, I guess, to, like, eat the Gatekeeper. Trade there. Eat that. No, that'd be a trade, because Battlecry... No, we don't have Battlecry this turn. Yeah. If we had Battlecry, maybe we could send in here, but without Battlecry, it's like 3/1 trades into 1/1, 2/1 trades into 2/2, 2/3 gets eaten by the frog when they discard 1 card. They kill Guide of Souls, go to 2, or chump there, take 1, go to 5. I mean, I guess it's almost all actually trades here. If they discard no cards to Psychic Frog, they could eat Pyro Surfer for free, but then everything else is trades. They're only eating 1 of our creatures for free, and everything else we are clearing a path with, and we've got a Gatekeeper coming back from grave. Might actually be better while they're tapped out than just giving them more time to expand the board and cast more spells and stuff. They've got a lot of mana there. And still 2 more cards. Yeah. Kill everything but Psychic Frog. Kill everything but Psychic Frog, and they're down to 1 card in hand. And if they don't play a creature, They just can't afford to attack with Psychic Frog. Even if they do, they can't super well. They need to, like, they need to hold this frog up to block Raptor, almost definitely, unless they have a really good creature or a removal spell for the Raptor. They could just equip the Dross Claw to the frog and pass. Then they don't have to discard a card for the frog to eat the Raptor. It's ready as a blocker at that point. Yeah, that attack, again, it doesn't feel great, but probably was worth it because we keep the Raptor. Uh-oh. It's a horrible sign for us if they attack with Psychic Frog, because that means that they already have at least one relevant card, probably two, or else that would be super bold still, if their hand is just like one blocker to play. Unless it was like one instant speed removal spell. That would be decent if it was one instant speed removal spell. Yeah, no, it's just an insane card. Gross. The 7/7 here. Ooh, okay. Game plan of top deck a basic and kill them out of nowhere is where we're at. I feel like not playing Mandibular Kite so that we could surprise lethal them is better than playing it here. Because if I play it here, they just hold Psychic Frog back as a flying blocker. If I don't play it, then we have the out of just top decking a basic and killing them. But if this is on our board, they're never going to not hold up a flying blocker. And if they draw into instant speed removal at any point, it's irrelevant either way. Yeah, I think, have to pass. Because if I play it this turn and then use my 4 to equip it to the Raptor next turn, it's, again, still going to be irrelevant because they can Dross Claw the Psychic Frog to make that a 4/5, and they can top deck removal. Wow. We were literally one basic land from winning on the Multifor. But it is what it is. Alright. Bummer ending, which is surprising because the Multifor at the start, you would be like, okay, well, we're just going to lose this game no matter what. So to be in such a good position that we're literally one basic land from lethal in the end of that game on a Multifor is a great sign for this deck and a decent sign for this matchup. So as long as we don't get some really bad openers again, I think we've got a pretty solid shot if that's how a Multifor game goes. So let's just head back in there and hopefully get some decent or at least average luck this time around and just crush. Well, this is decent. It's certainly better than every other hand we've looked at today. All of the hands we mulliganed away and the hand we kept. It's not incredible or anything, but it is solid. It's fine. It's exactly fine. It's pretty slow. None of our hasters or anything, with quite a few of those in the deck. And it's currently flooding. I don't like the universe that I'm in right now, where I have no other creatures and it kind of feels like you just play 2 combat tricks just to hit. That's an awkward world we're living in here. But I'm pretty sure this is our best play. Got enough energy for that to be very reasonable. Gonna be a solid card draw engine. It's also gonna ping our opponent as we're casting spells off of it. Very cool. Yep. Pattern significance makes sense. They've even got the mana to exile it off of Worn Power Stone of all things. Which is gross. The double ramp. Yep. Well, because we had the double combat trick, our only creature, we basically mulled to 5 this game. Because we just threw 3 cards onto our 1 threat and got 3 for 1. But hey, we almost won a mull to 4, which means we'll definitely win a mull to 5, right? Oh, it only damages when you cast spells? Dang. I wish it was when you played cards from anywhere other than your hand. Instead of just cast them. Because it's gonna make the flood hurt just that much worse. Can't even get just 1 extra damage. Alright, our opponent's all set up. 7 mana up. They can do whatever they want. Drop the giant 7/7 vigilance thing again if they have it. Yep. Infinitely ahead in cards. There's the draw 3 unfathomable truths. But we've got the amulet fighting a little bit this game. So that is something. I think I sliced this apprentice. Do I? At 20 life? I don't think so. Amped Raptor. Do I have any 5 drops in the deck? No, I've got some 4 drops, which would be castable whether I do them off of Amulet or not. Yeah, so we'll Raptor first. Because anything I hit off of Amulet is still castable. It's just 4 mana up. Conwood Goblin, the Dream Team's back. Now Amulet. Pyro Surfer? Alright. Kind of down to surf on in here. I guess they can double block the Pyro Surfer to kill it, though. You put an axe on it so it kills both the blockers at least. If I wait till I'm holding up Ghostfire Slice, like, they're probably just playing another blocker next turn anyway. Pyro Surfer still dies on a swing. Yeah. I don't love... This is 2 energy that could be going to Amulet, though, but... I'm keeping pressure on here. Maybe we can cheese them down to 4 somehow. All right, makes sense. Not Ghostfire slicing that apprentice worked out so badly for us, actually. Had we done so, they would have had like no good blocks this turn. Guess we should have just done it for mana efficiency. It's just so certain they are likely to end up with something better than a 1/2 at some point relatively soon. I just didn't expect to hit 3 creatures to go for big haste attacks like right after. We just weren't in a board state where I thought that I'd need to clear that out as a blocker immediately. I thought I'd have more time. choose to do that, but then we just hit a bunch of haste damage, and I was like, well, kind of need to haste while they're tapped out. There's our best friend, the Lurker, which we can never attack through. And our opponent is stable for the rest of eternity. Because this deck does not have a Dog Umbra. Or the exile removal, the prison thing. Okay, I'm just moving on to the next round if that's how it's gonna be. We're massively likely to lose regardless. Here we are for game 2, and in between games I just realized something tragic. This unstable amulet actually lets us cast the card whenever. We don't have to cast it the turn we exile it, which is how I was treating it that whole game. So I thought the Chrysalis was exiled forever. It was technically not. Technically not exiled forever. So we were still in that last game. Game 2 of round 2. No! Goodbye, Gatekeeper. I still get to keep this energy towards using Amulet again. So yeah, I mean, we were certainly very far behind and likely to lose game 2 of our last round, but we had a possible out. With Chrysalis trying to stabilize us. I'll try to keep that in mind in the future. I think this is the first deck I've actually ever run this unstable amulet in. I've only ran against it before. Pretty sure this is our first time running it. So, a little bit of a learning issue there. Some learning pains, some growing pains. I would like to go crazy with Auxiliary. We need this to resolve first, so it resolves here at the top of the stack. Boom, boom. RIP opponent? RIP opponent! Evangeline to Auxiliary is a wild curve. So we start things off 1-0 in round 2, and we just try to do it again, curve out on them. We don't have too much of a sideboard here. Yeah, no. This was just a pretty difficult draft pod because this was an Arena Open draft. It wasn't literally an Arena Open draft, but if you do a traditional draft on the day of an Arena Open, everybody who's playing traditional drafts and everybody who's drafting in the Arena Open drafts together. So I think a majority of the people drafting during Arena Open days are players in the Arena Open, because traditional draft is considerably less popular than Premier Draft. So you notice a considerable dip in the number of playables wheeling around during Arena Open traditional drafts. The decks are certainly a little weaker. So yeah, we just didn't end up with enough playables to actually really have sideboard options here. Let's just hop back into it for game 2 of round 2. Oh my god. This is evil. This is evil. Could we have just drawn one of these hands? Could I have drawn this hand last round? That would have been crazy. Our last round opponent had a lot of really efficient removal though, so even a hand like this, they might have just like Wither and Bloomed and then we cry. But this is absolutely evil if our opponent doesn't have turn 2 removal. That we curved out like we did last game, and now we're just going to turn 2 Flying Guide of Souls in here. It looks like it's happening. If I play the Conduit Goblin instead of the Hexgold Slip, that's more damage. And the reason is that next turn, I can play the Slith, get the 2 energy, and use the goblin to haste the slith. But if I slith first and then goblin, I can't haste the goblin. But I get to attack with all 3 creatures next turn if I want to. Which I guess I wouldn't, because I just want to get the 3 energy and then send the goblin into the sky as well. But like if Guide of Souls dies or something, then that'll be the better play. And it looks like it's not gonna die, so just keep giving our opponent just a terrible day right now. This is so dumb. They're down to 10 now. All right. After our brutal round 1 multifor, we take revenge on just an innocent bystander in the worst way possible. They just had no shot with those curve outs. And that was the fastest round 2 in a traditional draft I've had in a long time. That was like 5 minutes. And we won both games. And we're on to round number 3. Hoopoo! I like our opponent's username. We need more Hoopoo cards in Magic. Wait. Is Nadu a Hoopoo? Better not be. Because River Hoopoo is actually cool. Alright, this hand is fine. Basically exactly fine, and that's about it. I think we go... Ooh. I think we go Slith first, and so we can Battle Cry attack with the Slith if they do not have the cheap removal. And if they do have the cheap removal, I feel like Slith is still the best play, because it leaves the energy behind. Playing against another Rakdos deck, there's the Dross Claw. 1 toughness blocker here. Oh, this is going to be gross. Top deck Guide of Souls was nasty. So if I curve out in this direction, I get to immediately just have a 2 mana 5/5 flying haste. 4/4 flying haste, sorry. You pay 3 energy for 2 +1/+1 counters. My brain was defaulting to like 3 for 3 for some reason. Even if they kill Guide of Souls, it has already accomplished a lot here. And obviously, if they kill the Pyro Surfer, then we can still double energy next turn. We can play the Evangel. And then the Pyro Surfer... Now I'd have to draw land to do it. But they didn't kill the thing anyway, so... We get to keep a big creature, and we did draw the land. Okay, so what's the best curve here? It's Evangel first, so that I actually end up with 3 energy. Even though I get less Battle Cry out of this, it means giving another creature flying, which is a big deal. Because now I get the Proliferate trigger as well. Oh yeah, and it proliferates onto the Pyro Surfer. The other Pyro Surfer too. Jesus. I mean, our hand's all on board, but look at that board. Our opponent has 3 mana to try to deal with this stuff. It's their turn 4. Alright, draw a card off Refurbished Familiar, and they've got the double chump to survive another turn. And they draw into the Fanged Flames. Very good. Especially because if I played any creature, then the Evangel would now make our Pyro Surfer too big to die to 4 damage. Force that chump here, swinging for lethal. I like that we have 3 flying counters on the Pyro Surfer as well, just why not? Then if they get that Slith thing that removes counters from opposing creatures, Takes longer to get rid of the flying. Arc-bound Condor. If they play more artifacts, they might clear out the Evangel. But they can't kill Pyrosurfer here still. Is there any reason to landfall for the Battlecry? Block, 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 take 2. No, we don't have good attacks. Even with a Battlecry team. I could send in Gatekeeper to recast it to get another energy towards Guide of Souls, but that feels risky because then if they removal spell Guide of Souls, it plays pretty poorly over just keeping a wider board. Probably chump with Familiar here. I guess they've got Modular as well, so they can put all the counters on the Familiar. Try to still leave a big enough creature to kill Pyrosurfer later. But that does mean they're not trying to do the -1/-1 things. They're not going to be killing Evangel or anybody at this point. I think I hold the land for the Battlecry on a future turn where we might be swinging with more creatures. Cranial Ram. Then they can slap that onto the Familiar to trade into Pyrosurfer, but then they only have 2 blockers total, so instead I go wide. They block one of our ground troops and die, right? That costs enough mana that wouldn't be particularly risky. They'd only have 1 mana up after they move the Ram over. Oh, Drawsclaw, that works too. Amulet's a sweet draw. It's the energy we need to send another card into the sky. For 5 damage. I mean, they're just dead on board, right? Yeah, because it's 6 damage because of the Battlecry. Two 6-power flyers, plus they can only block 1 of the ground troops. So we start off the final battle 1-0 here against Rakdos Artifacts. I mean, we just had our bomb rare. We did bomb rare things. We just try to do the same. Just draw our super powerful cards. We don't have a great sideboard. Alright, game 2 of the final battle. I'm pretty sure I keep this hand. Turn 2 Guide into turn 3 Zealot, immediate swing. I could also play it pretty slow here to play around sorcery speed removal on the Guide. Oh my god. Okay. I was gonna say, that's the sketchiest thing about the hand, is having to crack the landscape for white when the Chrysalis is in it, and then we just top deck one of the 2 forests. Like, alright, here we are. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna run out of Guide of Souls. With no protection here. Although... if I don't do anything this turn. The next turn I Zealot, I have 2 energy. I'm not going to be able to play the Guide of Souls and immediately have the energy to give something flying anyway. They removal spell the Guide of Souls. It's not that bad for me, but I guess if I top deck like another white source, I can at least hold a Wing It Up alongside it. Evangel, you say? Alright, let's just use our other bomb rare. Let's use Writhing Chrysalis as the bomb rare this game. For now. I feel like that's reasonable. Until we hit a second white source, then I can play like these 2 together in the same turn, or these 2. Condor. I would like to kill that. We find a Pyrosurfer. Well, that is exactly the card I need to just get instant Guide of Souls value. Because I can now cast a non-white spell this turn to have the energy I need. Boom. Battlecry. Boom. They put the counters on Terramander. That's fine because it doesn't block anything here. Oh no, it can block flyers, but it would not be able to adapt anymore because it already has counters on it from Condor. I feel like this is worth it. The Zealot trade for Condor is what I'm saying is worth it. The Pteramander doesn't get to get any bigger than a 4/4 naturally. They don't get to adapt it anymore. We can win the fight with a Wing It. Kill the Guide of Souls? Sure. You got him. Send in the Pteramander. They are still racing. Pyro Surfer plus Chrysalis is kind of wild, right? There is a cost to holding up Wing It here instead of playing Mandibular Kite. But we've seen a bunch of 4 damage removal from our opponents, so I think it's worth that cost, making sure that they can't deal 4 damage to our Pyro Surfer and clear it out here. As such. Everybody loves 2 flying counters on the Pyro Surfer, right? Alright. They are tapped out and out of removal here. Now we just crystallize our way to victory. They can't block at all. Evangel's actually the better threat than the Kite here. Because the Pteramander can't block the Evangel, but it can block the Kite. Yeah, 3-turn clock. We cracked the spawn. Our opponent is mostly playing off the top at this point. They had 1 card in hand before. They top decked the Familiar. This is a pretty excellent draw because it made me discard my actual spell. I did hold 1 land, but that's not enough if they top deck Familiar for the double cast there. They have 8 damage in the sky next turn. Top deck another Mandibular Kite. This is only non-tokens hitting the board where it does the thing. And they win this race because they can chomp wherever they need to. Actually think I offer the Evangel for Familiar trade. Makes it more likely we win the race. Don't think proliferating on a Chrysalis really does anything. It's already just 2 hits and it's lethal. So they can let it through exactly 1 time, whether it's a 4-power creature, a 6-power creature, or what. Now they're playing completely off the top, but so are we. On board, if no one draws anything, we win the race. And they drew the perfect card. A chump blocker for the rest of all time. They chump block Chrysalis, spend 4, bring this back. Chump block Chrysalis, spend 4, bring this back. I suppose, since I can put the Kite onto the Familiar, it can't actually chump block Chrysalis here if I do that. It's literally our only line. They have to chump with Familiar, and then they have to not attack with Pteramander unless they top deck Gas again. If they miss like we did here, then they hit for 1, pass the turn, chump with Pteramander, and then we can win on the next swing. Yes, I guess actually, realistically, even through Transmigrant, we're winning on board. If they hit any equipment, we're dead. But that was the case even without Transmigrant. They just equipped Pteramander. Arcbound Condor. It's runner, runner, runner. What do we find off the top? Lots of things that could be lethal if they attack with Pteramander. Anything that gets the Condor out of the way for a second. Actually, this deck's pretty light on removal. There might not actually be lots of things that are lethal. Simulacrum would be. Siege Smash would be. Ghost Fire Slice would be. Infernal Captor would be. Okay, no, that's still like 4 or 5 insta-lethal cards. Charge Bug is death? No, I have exactly enough mana to go to 1 instead of dead. And then we have yet another turn where if they would just top deck a basic land, they're dead on board. I guess not dead on board, right? We attack with both. We menace this. They have to block this with these two, and they can't block this. Yeah, it's not dead on board. They go to 2. Yeah, no, now they can miss here. They can hit a basic and they're still alive. I don't actually think we can afford to attack if we hit a basic and they hit a basic. Because I can, like, menace in a flying Chrysalis, but they can just double block with both of the flyers, and then I don't have any blockers up and I die. I could menace a non-flying Chrysalis. They double block with Transmigrant Condor. They don't block the Charge Bug, but they still go to 2 and then kill me on the Crackback with their Pteramander. So yeah, if we both draw dead now, they're still winning. And that doesn't look like they drew dead, because if they did, then this is just conceding the game, basically. Galvanic Discharge? Yep. Man. Okay. It's literally going to be the same position. If they draw nothing, I block Condor with a 2/4. I block Transmigrant with a 1/3. And then I crack back with all menace. But if they don't attack me, even if they draw nothing, I still can't kill them, because only 1 Charge Bug gets in. It's going to be the smaller one. Our opponent is just incapable of drawing a basic land. We haven't hit a land in a little while either, but did it 2 more than them? What is this attack? No artifacts, right? Oh, they can just sack the Transmigrant to finish off the Charge Bug? Well, I literally have no choice anyway. I can choose to die. That is a choice. I do have 1 lethal top deck still. I could draw the Ghost Fire thing. No, I have 2 lethal top decks. I could also steal the Gengar. So I still have 2 outs. Yeah, well, I mean, we got into a top deck war and mega lost, is what it is there. I feel like our deck's pretty favored heading into game 3 here. We felt pretty ahead the whole time until it just came down to who hits the most spells. All right, final battle of the final round. We'll flip our final string of coins. Hopefully win a few more coin flips this time. That's not a win. It's also pretty bad, but it's got turn 2 Raptor. Get rid of the 4-drop. Our opponent's been playing in a way where they would have been dead to capture in a lot of different positions, though, so maybe it's Maybe it's Kite here. So if we hit a white source, then we're going to have the mana for the Zealot. It's probably safest to ditch a white card. Alright, there's Terramander. Charge Bug. Make the Raptor a little more likely to hit by playing Charge Bug first. Actually make it 100% likely to hit. Everything in the deck is 4 or less. But I do hit for less damage by doing this, especially if I would have hit a 2-drop off the Raptor. Because then I'm just putting a 1/3 onto the board instead of 2/2/2s. But let's guarantee some Raptor value here when we don't know if we can even cast spells. Alright, well that's horrible. I mean, Siege Smash is a good card, but we really need mana. Gatekeeper's fine. Familiar's very irritating. Discard the 4-drop or the white spell. Go for the white spell. Discharge on the Raptor. And this is a wildly aggressive curve out from our opponent. Draw the white source right when I discard the white spell, naturally, as you would. If I Siege Smash the Cranial Ram, they're down to 3 damage to us per turn. We win that race very handedly. On board. Should definitely specify on board we win that race very handedly. Maybe I was supposed to Siege Smash during our turn because the affinity on Refurbished Familiar. Unless they have like another 2-drop to play, it doesn't really matter. But we'll see. If they're perfectly mana efficient, then it matters. But if they end up with like 1 mana up... Of course! Well, I'm done. Well, there was a Siege Smash misplay there in the end. They would have been less mana efficient this turn. Had we smashed the Ram, they would have only played one of these 2 cards. Unless they also had a 4th land in hand, which is possible. With the way both of our losing rounds went this draft, I think it was honestly the kind of thing where, like, if each player just hits the same average land to non-land ratio, this deck would probably be 3-0. Maybe not round 1. Round 1, I think our opponent had a great deck that was pretty well positioned against us. I mean, our round 3 opponent had a great deck as well, but I think our deck was favored. In that matchup in round 3, we just drew significantly worse. I think if everyone hit draws that were just as good, we would have at worst been 1-2 in round 1, because again, we were 1 basic land away from winning on a multifor. So we would have been at least 1-2 round 1, and I think for sure we could have won that final round with just slightly better draws. But we drew real bad in game 3, and in the top deck war in game 2. It is what it is. Some variance rips our deck down to a 1 and 2, which feels pretty bad. I think this deck is kind of bad. It has some flaws to it, like the Splash Chrysalis is the biggest one. Being able to just be a streamlined Boros deck would be better, but it has high power level between Guide of Souls, a really aggressive curve with all these 2-drops like double Pyro Surfer and stuff. Amped Raptor to really curve out has been insane. There's 4 1-drops, like it's super aggressive, super high power level. But if we can't hit our lands, or if we just flood out in a top deck war, these are the kind of ways that pretty much any deck can lose. So really sad to see this one go 1 and 2. But it is what it is. I don't think there's really anything we could have done about it here. Just to draw better. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.